I pray that everyone is doing well and that your first week of Ramadan has been successful and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is blessing your fasting and your prayer. Alhamdulillah, the Imam's office has approved for in the month of Ramadan that we talk about the Qisas al-Anbiya. One of the important things about the Qisas al-Anbiya, the stories of the prophets, is the reality that the Quran is a book that has many different things. It talks about the akhirah, it talks about the commandments, it talks about the arkan Islam, the pillars. It talks about how to be a good person, akhlaq. And one of the ways that the Quran speaks is through stories. And this is very important because if you look at other scriptures and other texts, sometimes we find commandments. Do this, don't do that, accept this. But a story is a very effective way to communicate a lesson. You could tell someone, for instance, be honest or be patient, and they may listen or not. But if you tell a story about patience, the person is interested and hears the personality and the characters, and then gets entrapped in the story, and at the end, there's a moral. At the end, there's a lesson. And that person is more willing to accept the lesson of the story if it's within a plot, if it's within a narrative, if it's within characters that they can identify with. So today we're speaking about the story of Nuh alayhi salam. And the story of Nuh alayhi salam is a remarkable story because it's a story about patience. But it's also a story of Nuh alayhi salam coming to his people and calling them to Islam. But the elite of the people who had power, rejected him. So the weak came to him. In a similar way to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that in his preaching in Mecca, who came to him? Who were his supporters? The youth, the women, the slaves, the minorities, the people who were left out of the power system. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says here in Surah Hud, verse 25, وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا نُوحًا إِلَىٰ قَوْمِهِ إِنِّي لَكُمْ نَذِيرٌ مُبِينٌ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we sent Nuh to his people, and what did he say? I'm a nadhirun mubin. I'm a warner, a clear warner to all of you. And this is part of the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is that He never punishes someone without telling them first. And this is something we have to implement even within our management systems. If you're going to give someone a consequence, you have to be clear to that person and to those people on what the consequences are. What are the asks? What are the demands? أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا اللَّهِ subhanAllah. First thing he says is tawheed. Worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't do anything else. And that's why here at Adams, the focal point of this community is the masjid. The focal point is the musalla. The focal point is us praying and connecting ourselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then everything else is built around that. إِنِّي أَخَافُ عَلَيْكُمْ عَذَابَ يَوْمٍ أَلِيمٍ. Then he says, I fear for you the Yawm al-Qiyamah. And what I love about this statement is he says, Inni akhaf, I'm afraid for you. That he empathizes with his people. He doesn't just condemn them and lecture them and tell them you're going wrong, you're going to hell. He said, I'm worried about you. I'm giving you this nasiha, this advice, because I want the best for you. I don't want any negative consequence to occur. And then we see the response, subhanAllah. And we should focus on this response that the people of Nuh say to him. فَقَالَ الْمَلَأ. So the people of the society, the ones who had power, and the mufassirin, they say ru'asa, the people, the presidents, the elite. What did they respond to him? They said, الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. So these are the disbelieving elites. We know in Islam that sometimes some of the elites become Muslim. For example, we know Najashi in the Sirah becomes a Muslim. We know that Uthman came from a strong tribe, the Umayyad tribe, he became Muslim. But the disbelievers of the elite, what did they say? مِنْ قَوْمِهِ مَا نَرَاكَ إِلَّا بَشَرٌ. So this was the first thing they said against him. You're just a human being, just like us. Why should we follow you? You're not an angel. You're not a divine being. You're on the same level as us. And this is something that they even said to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You're just a human like us. Why should we follow you? وَمَا نَرَاكَ اتَّبَعَكَ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ هُمْ أَرَاذِلُنَا بَادِيَ الرَّأْيِ. Then they come with the second thing. So first they say, You're just a human being like us. And then they say, we only see the people who are following you are the people who are poor, the weakest amongst the society. And the people that have a low opinion. We don't look highly of them. SubhanAllah. So you can see that these people who were rich, that had power, they saw Nuh alayhi salam. They saw that he had a following, but they were a following they didn't identify with. They were a following that they looked down upon. And here the Mufassirin, they cite a very famous story from the Sirah, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, where Abu Sufyan, he went to Herakl, the king of Rome. And we find this in Ibn Kathir and Qurtubi. It says, وَلَمَّا سَأَلَ هَرَاكَ الْمَلَكِ الْرُوم أبا سفيان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال له فيما قال أشراف الناس اتبعوه أو ضعفاءهم. So he said to him, Herakl, he asked him a question. He said, are the asharaf al-nas, are the people who have honor, do these people اتبعوا, do they follow Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, or du'afa'ahum, or the weak among them? Who's following this guy named Muhammad? He heard about him in Rome. So Abu Sufyan, he responded and he said, قال بل du'afa'ahum. He said, the da'if, the weak people are following the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Abu Sufyan, you can imagine, he said this because Herakl is a king, right? And he's trying to say, oh no, these weak people are following the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So me and you, we shouldn't follow him because we have power and wealth. فقال هراكل هم أتباع الرسل. SubhanAllah. Those weak people, those are the followers of the messengers. SubhanAllah. That the weak people follow the messengers. So he's implying that he's a true messenger. Why? Because the weak people are following the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Then it continues, وَمَا نَرَى لَكُمْ عَلَيْنَا مِنْ فَضْلٍ. And we don't see. So first one, you're a human being. Second, the weak people are following you. Third, we don't see you have any status. You're not from an important tribe. You don't come from a good family. Your ethnicity isn't well known. And here, the Mufassirin, they say this is against Islam. That sometimes we evaluate each other in marriages and relationships based on fadl. Who comes from a good caste system, who comes from a good country, color of their skin. In Islam, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Whoever has iman in their hearts and does good deeds. Whoever has ilm and amal. Whoever has knowledge and action. بَلْ نَظُنُّكُمْ كَاذِبِينَ. But we see you as a liar. So these are the three charges against them. First, you're a human being. Second, the weak follow you. And third, you don't have any status. But all of these things that you see are wrong. Then Nuh alayhi salam, he responds and he says, قَالَ يَا قَوْمِ أَرَأَيْتُمْ إِن كُنْتُ عَلَى بَيِّنَةٍ مِّن رَبِّي وَآتَانِي رَحْمَةً مِّنْ عِنْدِهِ فَأُمِّيَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ أَلْ نُلْزِمُكُمُوهَا وَأَنْتُمْ لَهَا كَارِهُونَ. The Nuh alayhi salam, he emphasizes what? That he's clear from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm not bringing something that's not transparent. I'm being clear with you. I'm telling you exactly what's going to happen. And he mentions the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given rahmah and rahmah to the believers. وَبِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَحِيمًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is gracious and merciful to those who believe. كَتَبَ رَبُّكُمْ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ رَحْمَةً. Your Lord has decreed upon himself mercy. But he's saying that فَعُمِّيَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ, that they became blind. And this is a spiritual blindness. They could see, but their hearts were not in a position where they wanted to see the truth. And we know that in Islam, many of the people, the great scholars of Islam were blind. But they had this love for Islam. And we know Abdullah ibn Maktoum, one of the famous companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he couldn't see, but his heart had basira. He could actually see the truth with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him. And then he said, should we force this upon you? No, rather, they were those who hated the truth. And the final verse for today, Nuh alayhi salam, he tells them clearly, Ya qawmi, la as'alakum alayhi mala, subhanallah. And he says, I'm not asking for any wealth, for money for you. This is a qaida, this is a principle in our deen, that our deen isn't one where you try to exploit people and take their money. That the best masjid and the best Islamic organizations are non-profits. That when you see that people are using the money and trying to give you money so you can exchange it with your personal relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and your spirituality, then you know something is wrong. That we in Islam, anyone can come into this musalla and pray. There's no charge for Fajr prayer. There's no charge even for iftar if you come here at Adams. There's no charge for this because we are a non-profit. We're not doing this for money. We're doing this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In ajriya illa ala Allah subhanahu. He said, my reward is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahu Akbar. I'm not here as a businessman. This religion, I'm not using it to enrich myself. I'm doing this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at my sincerity. Look at my commitment, my dedication. وَمَا أَنَا بِطَارِدِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. I love how one thing about Nuh alayhi salam, when you compare him with the other prophets, is that he's so determined, he's so strong in his opinions and statements. And he tells the meta, the people in charge, he says, I'm not going to expel those people. Those people you told that are weak, the du'afa, those people that you think are a low opinion, I'm not going to expel them from my group. إِنَّهُمْ مُلَاقُوا رَبِّهِمْ. SubhanAllah. These people are righteous people. And they're going to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in goodness, and love, and kindness. وَلَكِنِّي أَرَاكُمْ قَوْمًا تَجْحَلُونَ. Rather, I see you're criticizing my followers, these people who are sincere. No, it's you who are the ones who are truly ignorant of what is right. So brothers and sisters in Islam, to conclude, the story of Nuh alayhi salam is so important, especially in these verses because they talk about the weak people, the marginalized, the people who have been left out of the community. And sometimes within our masajid and our institutions, we do outreach, we do partnerships. We have to ask ourselves, who are we really partnering with? Are we only partnering with those people in power and wealth and prestige? Are we really partnering to help those people in need? Secondly, we have to ask ourselves as an institution, as a masjid, as Adams, how much are we serving the poor? How much are we serving those people in need? The people who have debts, the young people who are looking for education and jobs, the sisters who may have been mistreated. And here at Adams, we have a zakat committee, we have a zakat program, we have Adams Relief. This is part of the masjid. This isn't something separate. That we have to make sure that in our institutions, it's embedded that we serve those who are in need. And part of our issue here as Muslims in America is sometimes we have this beautiful masjid out in the suburbs, millions of dollars, but then we have these poor masajid in the inner city that don't have any support. We need to work with one another and support one another. And lastly, brothers and sisters in Islam, Ramadan is a beautiful opportunity for so many reasons. But one of the reasons is it allows you to combine different pillars of Islam. Outside of Ramadan, you can do the shahada. You can pray. But in Ramadan, you can also do zakat. So in Ramadan, you have the opportunity to do 4 pillars. You have the opportunity to do the shahada, opportunity to pray, you have the opportunity to do siyam, do fasting, and you have the opportunity to do zakat. Brothers and sisters, we sometimes are wonderful in certain pillars. Some of us are amazing at fasting. Fasting the month of Ramadan, Monday, Thursday. Some of us are amazing at coming to the masjid and praying and coming to Fajr. But sometimes in our community, zakat gets lost, becomes forgotten. So let's make it an opportunity. And part of the sunnah of the companions, the righteous, the tabi'een, is that they made sure that they gave their zakat in the month of Ramadan. So let's make a commitment that we're going to do that we're going to give our zakat, and we're going to think about the du'afa, the weak people, the people who are in need, the fuqara, the masakeen, the people who are our relatives and our families who are overseas, people here in our local communities that need our support. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.